Well, good morning, good people of YouTube. It's about that time again in which you see this white screen. It will be brimming with words in a couple of seconds. A quick recap of what's been going on with my life. Oh, things have gotten really ugly. But the only thing driving me so far is going to Anime Expo. With or without a partner, I am still going. That's all I'm aiming for. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, as I am doing this, I am going to go and open up my work. I believe it's my work. My finest work ever. Yes. As we continue the story of the Dragoon Clan. And let me see where. Oh, I'm not supposed to be there. Wow, just zit. Let's see. Ooh, my goodness. Just move that down here like so. Next page. Thank you. Okay. Chapter 6. This is where we are right now. Chapter 6. Oh, Legacy of the Seven Stars. Going into possibly Chapter 8. Okay, starting from this chapter, if you remember last time, Lance had been promoted from a knight to a commander in just 1 day's time after showing up to the new kingdom of Moonstone, home of the clan Darklaw. So without further ado, let's start with Chapter 6, Demons of the Past. Thunder cracked and lightning roared as an ominous yet familiar laughter was heard. It echoed within as the night went on. A massacre took place and bodies were laid out everywhere. Every man, woman, and child alike were slaughtered right to left. The castle walls reeked of fresh and bright red blood, as the castle appeared like something out of a sick gothic thriller tale. The lightning revealed a dark figure with long white hair, topless, black stripes over his face and chest, and with a satanic grin on his face. His sword was marked with the blood of innocents that he slain, and that evil man remained a mystery. The hideous laughter echoed from within the castle. Was there someone who could ultimately stop him? Lance jolted out of bed as his eyes snapped open and sweat rolled from his face as he placed a hand to his heart, catching his breath. His throat became dry due to the heat of the night, and as he cleared his throat, taking a deep breath, he shook his head as he got up and teleported to the roof, gazing at the starless night sky. "You seem worried." A soft voice was heard. Lance turned around to see who it was that followed him here. "Snow." He smiled in relief, seeing her as he lowered his head for a second. "I had a nightmare, that's all." She approached him from behind, covering him with one of her wings as she looked at him with concern. "Lance, I know nightmares, but this is something That's not normal. Quick save. Lance, I know nightmares, but this is something that's not normal. What's wrong? He explained him. Okay, didn't mean to do that. Don't know why I did that, but okay. He explained that what he saw in his nightmare was rather disturbing in detail, describing exactly what he saw and why it bothered him so. There was only one word he could make out. Orochi, he uttered as he shuddered. After speaking the name. Tell me about this Orochi. Snow urged him to continue. Swallowing hard, he focused on the explanation and the connection between him and with it. The Orochi is an evil spirit in the form of a dragon who thrives on only one thing: destruction. He looked up and turned to Snow, continuing. That was no nightmare, but a warning. When I killed that vampire before coming here, her blood spilled on me, and I'm infected. Nodding quietly, she pulled her wing. She used her wing, pulling him close to her heart. Lance, even though we've just met, I feel as though you're close to me, and I won't let anything bad happen to you, she whispered. He nodded as he laid against her, letting sleep take over as he couldn't fight it. Unknown to the both of them, an enraged Aegis was watching him and stormed off back in the castle. As day drew near, Lance was nowhere to be found, and as the only thing left behind him was a rose made out of pure silver. Snow transformed back into her human state, Aislinn. She picked up the flower and held it close to her and silently headed back into the castle. Has anyone seen Lance? Krim came running into the castle with a look of worry on his face. Yeah, it looked like he seen a ghost at Skyfall. Where's he? Couldn't find a trace of him. Aislinn closed her eyes as she said, a tear as Dark and Gwenson ran. Okay, what's going on here? Doc swept his cape, taking his seat. And where's Lance? He should be here at this time, Gwen said, taking her seat beside her husband. He was nowhere to be found in the castle as everyone frantically looked for him. Miles away from the castle, Lance was in a state of meditation, armor and weaponless. He sat between the waterfalls and focused his energy on one task, purging the dark force known as Orochi out of his system. A light blue aura started to surround him as he focused more. As he got closer, everything around him turned dark as a whisper entered his mind. You can't escape your fate. Surrender or die. It was him, the demon himself, tapping on Lance's focus energy, poisoning it with his tainted whispers. If things weren't bad enough, he showed a horrific vision, one much worse than the night before. His homeland of Dragonia died with a sea of blood. His parents' home, that was once a place of nobility, was now just another ruin for his parents. Nowhere to be seen, and all that's really shown of this is 2 crowns, broken and burnt. Stop it! Lance screamed. Get out of my mind! He growled, holding his head as he thrashed around wildly. His eyes flashed as his birthmark around his forehead, shooting out a large flare of energy as he screamed an ungodly roar. Let me take that out. Now unknown to him, that crimson was in the area, mainly hunting for dinner, and that scream clearly made his prey escape. He raced the sound of the noise, and Lance shivered as he collapsed on the hard rocks. "Lance!" he cried as he covered his unconscious body, scooping him and his armor and sword up, taking him back to the castle. As everyone kept searching, Crimson came in with an unconscious Lance on his shoulder. Everyone looked up as Crim laid him to his quarters. Shutting the door behind him, he shook his head and sighed. "He'll be out for some time. Don't know when he'll be up again." Iceland turned to Crim, and with tears in her eyes, she panicked about what fate awaits Lance. He just folded his arms sourly as he replied, "What's so great about him anyway? He fought off Dragon, so what? I fought him too and I didn't get shit for it." Dirk stood up and intervened as he stepped down and slapped him hard off his feet. "How dare you talk to your fellow men like that? And he's your superior!" He just growled and stormed off in a huff. Dark sat back in his throne, folding his arms. "Lance has bested me and Dragon, and on top of that, he's pretty much the only hope for this land." And as for Gwen, she called Snow to the side and had a conference with her. Hours later, Lance came to and got out of bed, dressing himself in his armor, and opened the door, coming out. "Well, welcome back to the living." Duck grinned as he saw Lance. Smiled and replied, "Hi. Sorry I'm late." Everyone was pleased to see him back on his feet as he explained what happened. He also explained the reason why he always wore a bandana that covered his forehead. The crescent moon birthmark that lied on his forehead explained his heritage of him being a dragoon. Now the connection of him and Orochi is truly a mystery. But the solution is far from being explained and solved. Going into Chapter 7, Revelation of the Six-Armed Demon. Hey, Orochi in my story can have 6 arms, okay? Some time had passed since Lance's horrific premonitions of Orochi. He decided to make a home for himself in this realm and feel more independent in his duties. Many changes had gone underway for the lad, including the affairs of the heart. I suppose this happened some time ago, a few weeks after Aegis left the castle. Snow broke up with him since she was fancied by another knight of the castle, and of all things, it wasn't our hero. He often thought of those times he had with her, wondering if she truly cared for him or not, for he was still young, plenty to learn about love. Well, it wasn't long until one of the ladies of the court caught his attention. Dragon Lady. Often wrote poetry, sang a soft ballad to her, and brought her flowers. It was practically the ideal romance that had gone on at this time. Things seemed normal as at the time. Everyone broke out the champagne as Lance proposed to DL. They planned to have a wedding a week after the party, and it did go as planned. Upon this day, though, all wasn't as well as he hoped it to be. "Lance, is something on your mind?" He shook his head as Sky joined him on the... "Oh, Sky!" "Sorry, I didn't hear you." He politely smiled a bit as he turned to him. "It's your wedding day, you know. Shouldn't you be excited?" He rested his hand to his hip, replying, Well, yes, I am, but you see, Lance looked down a bit, swallowing. "Yes, I know you're nervous. We men get that way at times. Completely normal," cutting himself as he tugged Esley. "But, you know what?" "No, what?" Lance faced him eye to eye. "You'll do fine. Buck up now. Time to go, man." He grinned to him as he phased back downstairs. Lance felt a strange sensation as he came down. His heartbeat became faster than usual, but he was determined to make it through without any problems. So as he arrived at the ceremony, he placed his hand over his heart. DL looked over to him as the ceremony took place as he quietly breathed a bit slow. "Oh, you're all right, beloved. she asked with concern. He nodded a bit as sweat escaped off the side of his forehead. He shook his head and lowered it as he was heaving quite heavily. Lance, are you all right? Do you need some water? Doc tilted his head with a questioning look on his brow. Dropped to a knee as he felt an incredible energy take over. It was too powerful for him to stop as his hair started changing from brown to white in a matter of seconds. His armor cracked as a huge pair of deviled wings emerged from his back. A pair of black stripes appeared on his chest as an eye insignia revealed itself. Powerful gusts of wind surrounded his feet as he hovered 2 inches from the ground. As he opened his eyes, his brown eyes shrunk to the size of 2 dots as he turned pitch black. As he wore a devious grin on his face, his laughter was so hideous and terrifying. It made the women cower in fear. Also, anyways. Sky, Crimson, Island, and Dark sprang into action as they faced their once former comrade with swords in hand. "You've dared to challenge me," he said with such dark grimace. "You have no chance of stopping me or saving the boy." He floated in place as Dark charged him, blade first. But as the hit connected, he bounced off him as if it was nothing. Soon after, it was Crim's turn, aiming his sights right at the heart of his chest. He readied his bow and fired off a shot, and that too didn't make a scratch on him. Sky formed a firebolt from his hands and launched it at him, as he held out just a hand and absorbed it. "Pathetic fools!" he roared. "You really don't stand a chance. You really don't have a prayer, do you?" He laughed maniacally as he suddenly felt this twinge in his chest. "What's this?" he gasped. The mark of the crescent moon appeared on his forehead as a blast of energy imploded deep inside Orochi. "It's Lance!" Iceland replied as she lowered her sword to him. An ethereal form of himself appeared as he stepped out his possessed body. He stepped down to the ground and opened his eyes. "My friends, I'm here." He spoke softly. "Orochi, you may have possessed my body, but you haven't possessed my spirit. Nor will you ever will." He drew his blade out. It was a sword of untapped power and energy, something of a fusion of Scytha Dragoon and Crescent Blade. His body soon became solid as he stood beside Aizen. "Everyone!" he shouted as he stood staring at his evil counterpart. "Stand down. This is my fight." He stood tall as his golden armor sparkled like the sun as he readied himself to Orochi. "You really think you can win?" he snarled to him fiercely. "No, I don't think." "I know!" The both of them launched at each other with fists and kicks flying about. He grabbed his legs and performed a giant swing as he threw him against the wall. He stopped as he was about to hit the wall, and as he grinned and flashed his eyes, launching nails at the spirit hero. He swooped out of the way as he drew his sword and broke them. "Ah! So you want to play like that? He drew his other hand to a sword, and the two of them both clashed. They held no ground as the both of them struggled to gain ground. Very soon, Orochi was beginning to lose more power in the fight. His will inside Lance came to life. "You lost." Lance's voice revived from within. "You?" Orochi hissed loudly. "Everyone, wait for me." His voice began to fade. Aizen rushed in as she was trying to reach him again. "Lance, come back!" As the spirit grabbed him from behind, he locked his grip and leapt to the air. "Lance, what are you..." Sky looked up in awe, wondering exactly what the hell's going on. "This ends now!" he screamed as he and Orochi dropped an huge explosive drop, and all was heard was a scream, and thrown to the side was Lance's body, reverting to the way it was, but with burn marks and a bit of some battle scars. His spirit came to him as he was heading back inside his body. "Wait, please," Aizen replied as she stood there wanting to know. "Who are you? If you're not Lance." He smiled softly and only replied, "I'm his fighting spirit. Master Lance, the Moonlight Hero." He looked to everyone, continuing, "If you hadn't been there, Orochi would have gotten to me as well." Sweeping his cape, he smiled again. "Just remember, Lance Dragoon will always save the day." As he vanished back into his host's body, Lance stirred, a bit lightheaded. Was this all a dream to him? Or perhaps some part of him that never existed? Lance became too exhausted thinking. But the ceremony went on without any other problems. After they said, "I do," Lance teleported out of the castle with Dio in his arms. He landed right in front of his home that went by the name of Area 88. On the outside, it resembled something like a condo or a terrace. But the inside was a totally different story. He had decorated with walls of the old emblems of his family. The grand hall was huge, and on the floor was a huge emblem of a giant dragon that was airborne with its wings spread out and tail downward. Very much it looked like the letter W. She was taken in by the awestruck beauty of his small home. "Are you rich?" Her eyes brightened up, smiled and shook his head. "Not really, made this by myself." She explored more as she went with Lance as they ventured down the family hall. All his known members of his family were all seen, and as he sighed to himself, "It's not easy, living on your own. It's too foreign, scary." She nodded silently, and then looked at him. "Lance, you're not alone." She held his hand into it. She held his hand into hers. She held his. Boy, I'm just really noticing that. She held his hand into hers and kissed his palm softly. The two of them consummated thereafter. She snuggled to him as they both went to sleep together as their first night of being husband and wife. I really need to move that down a bit. Oh boy. And no, I know what you're thinking. No, it wasn't like this when I remember doing this. But now that I look at it, they fixed it when I didn't even know it was fixed. Chapter 8: The Discovery of Castle Dragoon. Some time had passed, and the couple known as Lance and Dragon Lady parted ways, and on bad terms too. Still devoted to his duties as commanding officer of the Dragon Eyes, he continued to defend Moonstone from the hordes of evil. During his spare time, he had been spending more and more time with the red-haired maiden Cindy, and they have been getting more and more close now than ever before. He told of his last battle from within and how the evil almost taken him over. She listened in interest of his stories and also about the amazing discovery of an old ancient castle he stumbled upon a while back. He stood up and took her gently and held her close as he touched his forehead. "Hold on to me," he spoke softly as he faced out with her, as they vanished from their current destination and reappeared in front of the old seal. The castle sat upon a high mountain range that nearly reached the skies. As Cindy looked up, she was shocked to see such a castle as this existed. Lance approached the seal and placed his hand upon it. From there, he spoke in his native tongue and uttered the following phrase: Toraga no kiko, toin tachigari! Translated, Dragon of Eternity in Flight, come to life. With that said, the seal traced a blue circle around both Lance and Sin as a ray of light engulfed the both of them and teleported them to the main hall of the castle. This is beautiful, Lance. Does it have a name? Sin marveled, still captivated by its beauty. He nodded as he smiled as he faced her. Castle Dragoon. He showed her around as if current family members were shown in the family home. The first picture displayed a very proud soldier with his arm resting down on his leg, as the other held with the hilt of his sword, as it was written in bold bronze letters, Magmal Jinjiro Dragoon, king of the Dragoon clan, head of the Dragoon family. Following him in the next portrait was a graceful woman whose beauty and spirit cannot be compared under any means. She wore a white dress and surrounded by pink rose petals. She wore a quiet and delicate smile as she looked to be dancing. Under her portrait it said in gold and white letters, Miyami Maraya Arasa Dragoon, Queen of Dragoon Clan, Head Lady Knight of the Dragoon family. A quiet smile appeared on his face as he looked to his parents, and then he reached a portrait of a young man with his sword drawn out in a battle position. He was twirling in the air with his sword in hand. On the bottom it reads, Lance Tenshi Ryu Dragoon, Prince of the Dragoon clan. Shocked and surprised, Sin looks to Lance and bows her head in respect. You needn't do that. He spoke softly to her as he smiled. But you're a prince. She looked to him as her cheeks began to flush. That's an adventurer and defender too. He smiled to her. Besides, he continued, I just found out where I came from a little while back. So this is all new to me. Slowly letting her go, he brushed his hand on the plaque of Dragoon as he gazed solemnly at it. She stood next to him as they both watched it together. As she laid her head on his arm, sighing contentedly. The sun drifted itself down on this day as the lost family known as Dragoon was reborn. The very next day, Lance arrived at Moonstone at the usual time, as he noticed there were some extra people in the castle. Lance, allow me to introduce you to your first rookie. His name is Shonen. Rookie? He thought. While glancing at him by Dark's description of the movie, he looks strong, but lacks battle experience. He smiled and extended his hand to him. Welcome to the Force, lad. Lance nodded to him with a pleasant smile. May I have an exhibition match with you, sir? He stopped as he was going to his quarters and turned to him. Spirited too. Well, bring your best. Having drawn Crescent Blade out to him, the both of them clashed swords with one another as the friendly spar began. They were both countering one another's blows the entire first half of the fight. As they clashed again, they bounced off each other. Lance stood completely still as his cape blew itself softly in the breeze. as he seemingly lowered his guard and watched the rookie. Shonen, who thought that this would be easy if he caught him like that, have considered how it would be to be his superior on the first day. He charged at him as Lance drew out his hand and hit his chest, sending him flying to the wall. Lance, that was a first. Doc raised his brow to him, hiding a snicker. He couldn't help but chuckle the way the fight ended. In fairness, Lance drew away his sword and helped his rookie up from the large imprint made on the wall. His eyes bulged at him as he stood before a solid moment as Lance tilted his sword at him. Alright there, son. I didn't make you cry, did I? Shonen dropped his knees and bowed to him. Sir Lance, I am humbled by your skills. Please teach me your ways. He thought out for a moment, thinking what the hell this guy might be on. But then he shrugged off and smiled to him with a nod. That's Commander Dragoon to you, cadet. He bellowed heartily as he went to his quarters. Lance passed by Krem and Sky, who were just discussing the whole match as they caught Lance's attention. Now, Lance, we know you don't do that often, but let us know what you did to him. Krem nudged his shoulder, laughing softly. Well, you plan on keeping us in suspense? Lance barked with a smile. Sky barked with a smile. Well, Lance started putting a finger to his lips for a moment. I just checked him. Looks like it decked him, though. Krim snickered as Lance raised a brow to him. Now, Crit, it's not nice to pick on my rookies like that. He had to blush for a moment. And he just left himself wide, and he just left himself open, and I just took advantage. He stood calmly with a smile, passed by them, stifling his laughter as he was to change. Those two, what clowns they are. Later that evening, as Lance came down from the terrace, he saw a beautiful woman enter the castle. It was love at first sight. Again. As he stepped down from the stairs, a young woman with long, flowing blonde hair and beautiful brown eyes caught Lance's attention as he came down with a polite bow. With a firm yet small smile, he introduced himself to her. Her name she gave was Lady Velvet. They met on good terms, considering the fact that there was a spark between both of them, knowing it was to be love. Again. Once again, time passed as a romance blossomed between Lance and Velvet, growing to another marriage. This one lasted longer than the first marriage with DL. From this union, why the fuck did I say that? From this union, Velvet gave birth to Lance's first child. He proudly named her after her mother, who she was given a name, Velvet Lucia Dragoon. He was so excited when he came into work after baby Velvet was born. Velvet was happy as well as with the family she had made. 3 seasons later, Velvet grew into a young princess, and sadly, Lance never seen LV again. One night, as he came home with his daughter, Velvet found a note from LV. It read, I'm sorry, but I don't think I can be with you any longer. Please take care of Lucia, Lady Velvet. There was an eerie silence that night when Lance came to hug his daughter. He held her close to him as he possibly can. Mind you, when I first started off, I was just like, I had no kind of book or whatever to work with, so it was all mind. He held her. He held her close to him as he possibly can. As he whispered, "Daddy's going to take care of you now," while letting her go with a kiss on her forehead, wishing her good night. She took a short glimpse of her father's eyes. There's a tear escaping and rolling down his cheek. As he turned to go to his quarters for the night, he heard a small whimper as he turned around to see who it was. He gasped softly as he looked down to see his baby girl cling onto his leg, sniffling and crying softly. "Oh, Velvy." He swept her up in his arms and patting her back softly. "Daddy, I'll cry," she whispered to him as he closed his eyes with a solemn smile. "All right, honey. Daddy won't cry." His parent at last had found meaning in his life, in the eyes of his own child. And let me just back this up a bit, so that way I can stop here properly. And yeah. Alright, I think that'll do it for tonight. My apologies if it seemed like it's been a while with actually going from this story of mine. I'm glad that some people are actually enjoying the audio version of Legacy of the Seven Stars. I have more stories, like a couple of fanfics I made during my spare time. So, more than likely, I'll not only just finish the first chapter or the first part of Legacy of the Seven Stars, but I will also do another fanfic in the process, or do a fanfic in the process. Please let me know what you think. I would love to hear some feedback from you beautiful, intelligent people. Please tell me what you think. Like, subscribe, and also share. Because not only am I an LPer, but I am, of course, an accomplished writer. So it's always good to hear feedback from my peoples. So, I hope you have enjoyed this edition of Legacy of the Seven Stars, the audio book edition, as much as I have enjoyed reading it and correcting along the way. So until next time, we actually go into Chapter 9, and possibly in the first half of the Star Destiny. I have been the Tenkaichi of gaming, Ichigo Musco, and I hope to see you soon, once again, with more stories and LPs and all like good stuff like that there. So until then, I shall see you next time. So have a good rest of the day, night, or wherever you are in the world. And of course, Tenkai Muso.